Previously, we had learnt about the behaviorism, and particularly through conditioning theories was the leading approach in learning psychology. These theories focuses on how learning occurs due to environmental factors. We have learnt about the learnt about the operant conditioning, classical conditioning, and behaviorism. And the key figures in this field include Thorndike, Pavlov, Guthrie, and B.F. Skinner. In the second series, we had learnt about the cognitive model. Cognitive model has three levels: the core beliefs, dysfunctional assumptions, and negative automatic thoughts. Formulation fits a person's experience into cognitive behavior framework, and which leads to cognitive behavior therapy, which aims to change cognition, and what they do means behavior. Now coming to the constructivism. Constructivism is a viewpoint that suggests people create much of their own learning and understandings. They create their own understandings by engaging in experiences and interacting with other peoples, and further combining new information with what they already know. So two figures are important in this constructivism theory. One is Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget, and other one is Vygotsky. We are going to learn about these scientists and their theories. These theories highlight the importance of how knowledge is constructed, which is the key to constructivism. The assumption and perspectives of constructivism. Many researchers and practitioners think that the only cognitive theory do not fully explain how a student learns and understands. The queries are: thinking resides in the mind rather than in interaction with persons and situation. Process of learning and thinking are relatively uniform across persons, and some situations foster high order thinking better than others. We will learn about the situation cognition further in the slides. Thinking derives from knowledge and skill developed in formal instructional settings more than on general conceptual competencies that result from one's experiences and innate abilities. So this is a kind of bidirectional interaction between the person and the environment, which is the main feature of this constructivism. So what is constructivism? Constructivism is not a theory, it's an epistemology, which is a philosophical view on how learning happens. But a theory provides a scientifically valid explanation for learning by development of theory uh, by virtue of various standardized procedure, like creating a hypothesis and proving that hypothesis is null or actually true. Constructivism does not claim that there are learning principles to be found and tested. Constructive Constructivist theorists do not believe that scientific truths are out there waiting to be found and confirmed. They think that these truths are already there, and cannot be tested, and that are found naturally in the environment. The world can be understood in various ways, meaning no single theory holds the absolute truth. This is the words of constructivism theory, and actually this truth is also applies to constructivism itself as well. Means constructivism is also not a single theory by virtue of which one person learns. Perspective of constructivism. Constructivism is not a single viewpoint, but rather as different perspectives. For example, exogenous constructivism, endogenous, and dialectical. In exogenous, the acquisition of knowledge represents a reconstruction of external world. The world influences the belief through experience of the person, exposure to the models, and teaching. Knowledge is accurate to the extent it reflects external reality. So, in endogenous constructivism, knowledge derives from previously acquired knowledge and not directly from the environmental interactions. Knowledge is not a mirror of the external world, rather it develops through cognitive abstraction. So it's a knowledge which is already known to the person and applied for further enhancement. In dialectical constructivism, knowledge derives from interaction between person and their environment. Constructions are not invariably tied to the external world nor wholly the workings of the mind. So it says it's a kind of bidirectional interaction between the person and the environment. Situated cognition. Situated cognition or situated learning focuses on the connection between a person and their environment. It shows that thinking is not just something that happens in our mind, it also plays a role in motivation, which influenced by how we think and interact with social and educational factors, including language. This concept aligns with the constructivist view that learning is deeply connected to context. Context means situation, and this has been increasingly supported in various subject areas. Contribution and applications of constructivism. Social environment and cultural background plays a significant role in shaping mental disorders. The cultural aspects impacts the culture impacts various aspects of mental health, including the stress they face in their life, the willingness to seek help for the problem, the kind of help they pursue in the future, and the symptoms they report, and their coping mechanism and social support system all plays a role in a development of and resolution of mental health problems. Similarly, the cultures of mental health professionals and the services they provide also affect the mental health care. So the person who is suffering is not only into the play, the mental health professional is also into the play, and their mindset and cultural backgrounds and their understanding also plays a role. For example, terms like depressed and anxious may not exist in some American Indian and Alaska Native languages. Therefore, assessing the need for mental health services among these groups require a careful understanding and their cultural context. Social constructivism focuses on several key areas regarding mental disorders. It focuses on the disorder themselves and the collection of symptoms, the lived experience and feeling related to these disorders, the characteristics that define them as mental disorder, and how patient express their experiences and communicate with the clinicians. So both remains into the play. The Think about now think about someone diagnosed with PTSD, known as post-traumatic stress disorder, which means they are recognized as having a mental disorder. For this person, it includes the PTSD condition itself, along with the background, such as what caused it and what triggered it. Means, as the name of the disorder itself says, that post-traumatic, that some trauma or stress has been there in the history, and that lead to development of a disorder known as post-traumatic stress disorder. Their personal feelings and experiences and possibly unique characteristics along with a range of symptoms that shows they have PTSD. So collection of symptoms, the disorder themselves, the experience of the person and feeling related to the problem, all are there to say that the person is having a mental disorder. So being diagnosed with and treated for PTSD usually means the patient needs to work with the clinician. The patient will share his or her experiences and feelings and describe her symptoms in a specific manner. And the clinician in turn must interpret the patient's observed and reported behavior, both verbal and non-verbal, and come to a conclusion to make a diagnosis. Each of these targets can be seen as influenced by social factors, information about a person's cultural background, such as their religion and possibly their gender identity, should guide diagnosis, the interaction between clinician and the patient, and treatment. One key reason to assess cultural background is that differences can lead to confusion and misunderstanding. So cultural background should must also be kept in the mind while uh, tackling with these patients. So as we have said that there is a situation and that lead to a cognition and certain behavior. Uh, so there are some sort of disorder which are defined in ICD-10, which used to happen after some kind of event, and these disorders are related to reaction to severe stress and adjustment disorder. The subclassification is acute stress reaction after a catastrophic event. Post-traumatic stress disorder is late onset disorder to acute stress. And adjustment disorder is disorder of adjustment to new environment. So all these are situation specific. Now coming to the Piaget's theory and stages of cognitive development. The key features of Piaget's theory are following, and he also used the constructivist approach to learning, so it is important to learn about him. The key features of Piaget's theory are developmental stages. He identified 4 stages of cognitive growth that occur in order, with each with unique ways of thinking from infancy to teenage years. In constructivist approach, children learn by actively exploring their surroundings, like little scientists. Instead of just taking information passively, they are also active person. Schemas, these are mental structures that help organize knowledge, increasing in number and complexity as children grows, which helps them understand the world better. The assimilation, this is the process of adding new information to the existing schemas. So new information always added to the previous information. Accommodation, this involves changing current schemas or creating new ones to incorporate new information. Equilibration, this is balancing act between assimilation and accommodation that helps children move through cognitive stages, resolving conflicts and adopting new ways of thinking. So these are the 4 stages of Piaget's development. First is sensory motor, um, which occurs between birth to 18 to 24 months of age. The goal is object permanence. Object permanence means the children start to realize that people are separate from them and the object still exists. This means if the parents are not there, they are in the another room, they still exist, and even they are hidden. Pre-operational 2 to 7 years, symbolic thoughts start to develop. The child start to see the world as the other does. Concrete operational 7 to 11 years, logical thoughts start to occurring, and they begin to think about how other people might think and feel, which is separate from their feeling and thinking. Formal operation is adolescent to adulthood. Scientific reasoning start to developing. They gain the ability to think abstractly. Now, Vygotsky theory of cognitive development. Vygotsky somewhat uh, the difference between Piaget and Vygotsky theories of learning are as follows. There is a strong emphasis on socio-cultural context in Vygotsky theory. Social constructivism is more emphasized rather than cognitive in the Vygotsky theory. There is no general stages of development as given by the Piaget. Zone of proximal development, scaffolding, language, and dialogue plays a role in development of in the learning of the child, and tools of the culture are also important. So the teaching implications of Vygotsky theory is to establish opportunities for the children to learn with the teacher and more skilled peers. While in Piaget's theory, it supports children to explore their world and discover knowledge by themselves. Now coming to the theory of cognitive development, first we discuss about the socio-cultural theory. Vygotsky thought that the culture and the social factors shape cognitive development. He highlighted how social interaction helps children develop mental skills like speech and reasoning. So social interaction with other, like parents and other relatives and peer group, uh, highlight the development of learning in the child. So a teacher, parent, coach or friend who helps guide the child and shows them how to learn new skill is lies under the socio-cultural theory. Now coming to the effects of culture. So people do not just passively receive knowledge, they actively engage with their surroundings. This engagement, along with natural skills, social connections, and cultural resources, is essential for cognitive growth. Infants come into the world with basic skills of thinking known as elementary mental functions. These mental functions are attention, sensation, perception, and memory. As they interact with their social and cultural surrounding, these basic functions grows into more advanced, higher mental functioning of like reasoning and abstract thinking. So There is a term more knowledgeable other. The more knowledgeable other is term that describes someone who knows more or has a greater skill than the learner in a specific area, not in the all areas but in the specific areas. Through conversation with these knowledgeable individuals, learner receive guidance, tips and motivation, helping them understand how to accomplish the task. And interestingly, the MQ, the more knowledgeable other, doesn't have to be a person. It can also be a tool, an application or AI tool or robots and machines. Uh, by help of these things, one can learn more. Many companies are now implementing electronic performance support system and to aid employees in their learning. Additionally, electronic tutor are also being utilized in schools to enhance education. In the recent news, a robotic tutor was employed in a southern part of India as a teacher. The exact I am not remembering, but there was a news. Now, zone of the proximal development, which is also a part of Vygotsky theory. Vygotsky described the zone of proximal development, ZPD in the short, as the space where effective teaching and support should happen. This helps children learn a skill they can use on their own later and promoting advanced thinking abilities. So you can see the picture in the right hand side. There are three circles, and the central circle is the things the things which the learner can do unaided means by themselves. And in the second zone, this is the zone of proximal development. Learner can do with the guidance of others like teachers, friends and or other means of tools and applications. And the outer circle is the thing which the learner cannot do by themselves or with the guidance. Internalization of knowledge. Internalization is the key idea in Vygotsky theory, connecting social interaction with personal cognitive growth. It is the process by which external activities influenced by society transform into internal mental process, helping people learn to knowledge and skill. Vygotsky believed that advanced mental abilities like language, reasoning, self-control start from the social interaction, not in the mind of the child itself. A child figuring out a problem with the parents help doesn't just remember the answer. They build their understanding by talking and engaging with their parents. So this is a bi-directional exchange of the knowledge. Vygotsky also emphasized on the language. Now we will learn how it is important in his theory. So language plays two critical roles in cognitive development according to Vygotsky. One is cultural sharing of knowledge. Language is the main way to share cultural knowledge, values and practices from one generation to the next. It is obvious. Language is a strong tool for mental growth. Language is more than just a way to talk. It help us to think. It supports the growth of advanced thinking skill like abstract reasoning, planning and solving problems. Vygotsky differentiates between three forms of language. One is social, then private, and the inner speech. In the social speech, this is the first type of language, helps children connect with the others, create common understanding, and take part in cultural activities. And it usually starts around age 2. So this is a visible speech by virtue of which a child is interact with the others. So this is a spoken language. Private speech, this is the speech that children say out aloud to themselves, not to others, which helps them think, typically beginning around age 3. And you must have seen that the children of age from 3 to 12, they used to talk to themselves while playing, or talking to the imaginary companion. So this is the private speech. Inner speech suggests that private speech doesn't vanish. Instead, it becomes the silent inner speech, usually developing around age 7. So this is the speech which is not spoken aloud to others or to the self, but it runs in the mind of the child. So in their mind, they used to speak to themselves. Functions of private speech. Children use private speech to work with themselves, similarly to how adults help them to reach to a goal. Vygotsky views private speech as a tool for children to organize their activities and strategies, which supports their growth. It involves using language to control their own actions. This self-guided conversation assists them in concentrating on what is needed, organizing action to achieve the goal, and tracking their progress of achievement of goal by talking to themselves. Inner speech comes from private speech. Private speech becomes inner speech when it is become less visible. Inner speech is a quiet language we use in our minds to think, plan, and control our actions. The functions of inner speech to planning and problem solving. Inner speech plays a key role in planning what to do next, thinking about possible outcomes, and creating strategies to handle difficulties. Self-regulation and control. Inner speech help us control ourselves by allowing us to resist impulsive action, concentrating on our goal, and handle other emotions and drives while doing some kind of work. Social understanding. Inner speech is connected to our ability to understand other people's thought. By having internal conversation and imagining different viewpoints, we can better grasp what other things feel and intend. These are the important aspects of Vygotsky theory, which includes social interactions are essential. Knowledge is built together by people. Self-regulation comes from internalizing action and thoughts from social interactions. Human growth happens through sharing cultural tools like language and symbol. Language is the key tool evolving from social speech to private speech, then to inner speech. The zone of proximal development represents the gap between what children can achieve alone and what they can achieve with the help of others. Now coming to the social cognitive theory, which is given by Albert Bandura. This is the learning from others' actions. Social cognitive theory suggests that individuals actively shape their learning by understanding the result of their action. This understanding impacts their surrounding and personal traits, which then influence their future behavior. Albert Bandura presented a key viewpoint on social cognitive theory. His ideas have been used in many areas, including personality growth, mental health treatment, workplace training, education, health initiatives, advertising, and more. So he started with a Bobo doll experiment. Uh, in this studies, researcher shows videos to young children of an adult behaving violently towards a large inflatable doll, which is known as Bobo doll. After the video, the children saw the adult either being rewarded, punished, or facing no consequence for their action, means their violent action. Later, the children were put in a room with the same inflatable Bobo doll. Researchers discovered that children who saw the adult being rewarded or facing no consequence were more likely to act aggressively towards the doll. So Skinner suggested that learning happens through personal actions. On the other hand, Bandura argued that both people and animals can learn by observing and copying others. So in this experiment, the children copied the other adult person uh, in a similar manner, whether they were rewarded, punished, or faced no consequence. In his theory, there is a sequence of motivation to act repeatedly. There is a stimuli focus to which the person gives attention, and he retain the information and rehearse the encoded memory. Practice feedback by motor reproduction of their retained knowledge, and the action, the reward reinforces the action to be repeated in the future by motivation. The features of social cognitive theories are reciprocal determinism, behavioral capabilities, reinforcements, expectations, and self-efficacy. So the reciprocal determinism is The main idea in social cognitive theory, it describes how people who have learned experiences interact with their environment, social context, and their own behavior. This interaction helps them respond to different situations and reach their goals. Example, a student who thinks they can do well on an exam is more likely to study hard. This belief in their ability known as self-efficacy, which drives their effort. If they doubt their chances of passing in the exam, they may not study at all. Their actual exam result will then confirm or challenge their belief about their abilities. So this is the reciprocal determinism. The result shapes the future behavior of the child who doubt their abilities. Behavioral capabilities. Behavioral capability is about a person's skill to act based on their own knowledge and abilities. In other words, to perform any action, a person needs to understand what to do and how to do it by their knowledge, previous knowledge and abilities. Reinforcement we have already discussed in the previous lectures regarding the positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement and punishment. Expectations. Expectations are the results a person thinks will happen based on their actions. These expectations often come from the past experience. For instance, a student who lacks motivation to get good grades might not see much importance in doing what is needed to reach those grades. So if you expect good results, you will study hard, and if not, then less hard or not at all. Self-efficacy is the degree of confidence someone has in their ability to carry out a task successfully. Self-efficacy is often said to be task-specific, meaning that people can feel confident in their ability to perform one task but not in another task. Now, the difference between social learning and social cognitive learning. Social learning theory and social cognitive theory are both learning theories that highlight the importance of learning by watching others. Social learning theory centers on reinforcement, while social cognitive theory highlights cognitive process in the mind. Social learning theory suggests that all behavior are learned through the observation, where social cognitive theory recognizes that learning can also happen through the direct experiences. Additionally, social learning theory emphasizes individual learning, while social cognitive theory offers a broader perspective of learning, for example, environment, from the environment. Now, in the summary, we have learnt about the constructivist learning theory. The key principle includes active learning, prior knowledge, social interaction, zone of proximal development, and real world context. While in social learning theory, the key principles are observational learning, individual learn by watching others, modeling like teacher, peers, and media can serve as a model to learn. Attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation is the uh, cycle by virtue of which one person repeat their behavior after getting motivated. Reinforcement and punishments, positive or negative outcome influence the likelihood of a behavior being repeated by aftermaths of the work done. Thank you.